On Saturday mid-morning, while playing Carry Cruise of Tansam with Tabog and Pipit, my mother called me to bring lunch to my father, who worked as a palay dryer at the Farmers Cooperative and Marketing Association, Pacoma. I reached the Pacoma at 11:45. The place makes one sick. Engines noises, loud people's voices, oppressive heat mixed with jute sacks odor. The dryer's gigantic dome contains a huge hearth inside, and attached to it is a rolling wheel with spikes that run in a violent rhythm. A chute on the dome's top served as the palay poured in place. Planks of woods as bridges surrounded the dome. On these planks, my father, along with others, would bring up the sack of palay on their shoulder and pour the contents to the chute, beating up the harrowed shelling of the overseer. The work scene depicted that of the slaves building the Pharaoh's Pyramid of Egypt, instead of beating the slaves. While bringing slabs of stones, my father and all other workers are getting yelled at as the overseer demanded brisk movement. 12, the bell rang. Lunchtime for my father's ship. Upon disembarking, my father went somewhere. When he showed up, he looked washed. Mud-like residues drip on his hands. A rice bran damp his sweats for days wafted out of his body. His thinning hair and eyebrows flaked with white dust. His back red in angry rashes. As we walk away from the dryer, he tried to impress on me how hard it is working there. That's why you should study harder when you grow up. I don't like you to end up like me. Got a low grade in arts. There's no color paper, watercolor, crayons, paste, scissors, envelope, I said. That doesn't matter for now. Concentrate on English, math, science, and social studies. We reached a big acacia tree. My father threw his body on the thick grass under the shade. He stretched his back to the tree trunk and spread his legs. He closed his eyes, savoring the gentleness of the wind. I sat opposite him, swamped by his tiredness. "So what's lunch?" he asked. "Smoked fish and tomatoes," I said. "Can't your mother cook anything else with the soup at least? This cannot get my energy back," my father said as he ripped open the pillow-like lunch wrapped in banana leaves. That's okay." He peered through the plastic bag for salt. Finding it, he squirted out the tomatoes and put the salt on it. Then started eating with his hand. "Those shoes you wanted, next week you'll get it," he said after a mouthful. Major purchases like that took years. I knew because our first wood case transistor radio took my mother 3 years to harass it to my father. At school, I had a crush on Carmelina, and I hated Rufino, a wealthy bully who always had newly bought shirts, new pants, wear a white Converse shoes. He dogged Carmelina all the time. I thought, if I wear the shoes Rufino has, I'll have the courage to get near Carmelina. I knew it would be insensitive of me to ask my father to buy me a shoe like that. It's as heavy as doubling the sack of palay he's bringing to the chute. But I asked him anyway. "Oh, great," I said, so thrilled. My shoes came. Black, not white that I wanted. It's Elpo, not Converse. Cheap, no class. Frustrated, I faked cheers so as not to sour my father's pride, his victory on something. When I wore my Elpo shoes, my classmates jeered. They said only rat catcher wore my shoes. I got discouraged now to get close to Carmelina. Ashamed to wear my Elpo shoes at school, I knotted their laces and parked them under my desk. And my black Elpo shoes lost. Got rid of my shoes after all. My father got so mad. He told me to find them. warned me. Got a hint of that warning. I'd seen samples of them. When Connie, my second younger sister, failed to address Elsie, my sister next to me, as ate after repeated warnings, my father tied Connie's hand under the cashew tree and wrote some ants on her feet. After some time, my mother teared up, so she freed Connie. I begged for help from the property custodian who lived nearby to open up our schoolroom and let me nose around, saying my father would kill me if I didn't find my Elpo shoes. Crawled under the desk and found no shoes. Check all the garbage cans. My shoes could be mistaken as garbage. No shoes either. My feet got heavy walking back home. I liked to stow away, but my mother would die of worry. What's the worst that could happen? Would my father hack me with a paddle or with a belt? If kneeling on mongo beans, I just prayed my mother would rescue me sooner. My mother, when she saw me without my shoes, wore a worried stare. She held a dry dish rag, bringing it. Then she's gone. So you didn't find your shoes? My father asked. I nodded, looking at my feet. If my father wanted me to dive on the bench, I would wait, or get my knees ready for the mongo beans. My mother showed up again, restless, bringing still that dry dish rag in her hands. My 4 younger sisters got disturbed as the squirrels scampered for a place to hide. Son, my father said. His voice is soft, putting his arms around my shoulder. His touch light. My body squirmed. He led me to the bed. His voice seared, shearing my flesh. We sat. I'm not mad at you, but at your attitude, he said. I choked, then sobbed. You saw how hard I worked on the dryer. How it took me 3 years saving every penny. How I rather you not bought those little things in your heart for me to buy your shoes to make you happy. Yet, you don't put value on one's effort. That's not right. His soft words needled teeny-weeny beads in my heart. Torrents of tears cascaded from my eyes. I wish my father would just whip me. 2 hacks each time. You paid off your sins. But his words etched in my brain would be an endless persecution of my fault and guilt. Half blind with tears in a mirage, I saw my mother without her dish rag. My younger sisters came out of hiding. You remember that, my father said. That's the most severe punishment I ever had in my life.